Well, g'day everybody. In today's video I'm making a bandsaw box. To make these bandsaw boxes, I've just got some scrap wood here which I'll laminate, and just a clamp or two to hold it all together before it gets cut on the bandsaw. This is just a bit of Tassie oak here. I've got some plywood, more Tassie oak, plywood and Tassie oak. That's all I can do for today. I'll let the glue set up overnight and I'll come back and have a crack tomorrow. We'll see you then. Well, good morning everybody. As you can see, the block that I'm going to use for the bandsaw box is all nice and glued. I'm not too concerned about whether it's flush or not, to be honest, because most of that's going to be cut away anyway. Now, this is not my own design. I downloaded this off the internet thanks to Steve Carmichael at the Carmichael Workshop. Check him out. All I have to do now is to cut this out and glue it onto the block and then take it to the bandsaw. I'll just let that set now, and while that glue's going off I will go and change the blade on the bandsaw. Okay, so I've cut the basic shape out on the bandsaw, and I've been on the belt sander and I've got the majority of the bandsaw saw marks out of it. It's actually looking quite nice. What I'm going to do now is go back to the bandsaw and cut a slice off the back for the back of the box, and then the next part after that is to go in, going with the bandsaw, and cut around this inner line which forms the drawer for the box. Okay, so over on the bandsaw just now I've cut the middle out of the box, as you can see there. The trick I think is to go in by the shortest route if possible, and in a place that's not going to be really visible. Obviously that's left a cut through the outside of the box which I'll have to glue and clamp in a moment. I've cut the drawer section out. This is going to be the drawer section, and I've drawn a rough line just around the outside of it there, and this part here will be cut out on the bandsaw, and this will actually form the sides and bottom of the drawer. And I cut a slice off the front and back of this part which forms the back and front of the box. Alright, So what I need to do now is get to gluing and sanding, and I'll come back when I've done that. So the box is nearly completed. Just got a couple of little things to do. I'm going to sand. It's still quite rough. It needs a bit of sanding, so I'm going to sand it from 120 grit all the way up to 240 grit before I put a coat of finish on it, or a couple of coats of finish. And I still haven't really decided what I'm going to do for a pull, a draw pull. Whether I'm just going to use a little bit of dowel and stick it on, or or make something out of a little bit of Redgum or something. But I'll think about that while I'm sanding. Yeah, so I've got a fair bit of sanding ahead of me, so I'll get on with it. And if you can hear some humming noise in the background, I've got the air cleaner fan on, going right above the camera there. So. Okay, so that's the sanding finished. I sanded right through from 120 grit all the way up to 240 grit, and I've decided to use a bit of Danish oil as the finish. I've also decided on a small block of Redgum for the draw pull. What I'm going to do now is stick the draw pull onto the front of the drawer, and then while that's setting up, I will get on and put the stain on the box outer. Okay, so I've put a couple of coats of Danish oil on there. I'm going to let that go off now for 24 hours. I'll come back tomorrow, do another coat. Eventually I want to put a wax finish on it, and the instructions on the can say I've got to wait 7 days, and I think that's for all the stuff in the oil to fully cure and evaporate, so it doesn't affect the wax finish. But that's all for today. I'll be back tomorrow to pretty much finish it off. We'll see you then. Okay everybody, I'm going to call the bandsaw box done. I'm pretty happy with the result. I think it's turned out really well, and the Danish oil has really brought out the grain in the wood. If I was to make this particular box all over again, I'd only do one thing differently, and that would be just where I've cut into the block of wood to cut the draw section out, I would go with the grain instead of across the grain. Going across the grain has made the cut quite noticeable, and I'd just like to thank my friend Dave for pointing that out to me, because I spent a few minutes trying to figure out which way to go into the box, and going with the grain never even entered my mind, so thanks for that. Designs for bandsaw boxes are only limited by your imagination and whatever materials you have available. Now if you've got some different ideas or some tips, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I appreciate it. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks very much for staying to the end. I appreciate that too. And I would also appreciate it if you could subscribe. That'd be great. Well, that's it for now. Bye bye.